To the honourable member for Fairfax.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Well, this week's budget has confirmed something that the Prime Minister has not had the courage to say himself, and that is the Labor Party has broken a promise, a very big promise. We know that the budget was in fact littered with promises being broken. But there's one promise I have in mind in particular, and it comes with a number, Mr Speaker, and that number is $275. That's right, $275, which was promised by the Labor Party, by the Prime Minister, on no less than 97 occasions, a reduction in household power bills by $275. And what we saw in this week's budget was in black and white that promise broken. A promise broken because we now know that power prices are set to skyrocket. Electricity prices by up to 56% and gas prices by 44%. This is in black and white confirming what the Prime Minister has been too weak to say here in this chamber, despite the number of questions we in the opposition benches have been asking him. This is a broken promise to the Australian people. But what's interesting here is we also have a very divided cabinet within the Albanese government when it comes to how to deal with this issue. There's complete disunity among the cabinet members. We have the Prime Minister, of course, blaming the coalition. We have the Treasurer blaming Vladimir Putin. We have the Industry Minister blaming the gas companies. We have the Energy Minister blaming everyone bar himself, even though he is the one presiding over this mess. But the one thing they are not even talking about is how to fix the problem. They are divided only on one thing, and that is who to blame for their own broken promise, who to blame for the increase in power prices. Now, we know, I'll take the interjections of again complaining the coalition. For those opposite, for those on the government benches, we recognise that your party isn't really filled with people with a business background who understand economics. So let me make this really simple. Let me explain this in a different way for you. It's like watching a footy game, and no matter how messy the footy game might look, and there's no doubt the energy market looks messy at times, the most important thing is you look at the scoreboard. You look at the scoreboard at a footy match. Well, under the coalition, I tell you what that scoreboard said. Under the coalition, that scoreboard said that power prices came down for households by 8%. That's what the scoreboard said, and the coalition prices down. That scoreboard said for businesses, prices came down by 10%. For industry, prices came down by 12%. But guess what's happened? We have had a change of government. Instead, the new team wearing the Aussie jersey, in fact it's the Labor Party, and what does the scoreboard now say? Prices are going up. Prices are going through the roof. And what's more, their own budget confirms it's only going one way, it's going further up. Further up. Now, this is the budget, of course, Deputy Speaker. This is the budget that the Labor Party claimed would be all about cost of living. All about cost of living. It forgot the part where they went to the Australian people, and the number one cost of living issue they were speaking about was power prices. That was excluded. Now, for those who have read the budget, and again I suggest for those on the government benches who aren't into budgets and economics, if you go to budget paper number 1, look up that section which is called Economic Outlook. Within Economic Outlook, there are some pages talking about inflation. Now, the most common theme in that inflation section in the government's budget is the rise of energy prices. The rise of energy prices. You would think, therefore, that if that same government were to have cost of living as its centrepiece of that budget, it might actually deal with the primary cause behind that inflation. But guess what? They had a 5-point plan on cost of living. Guess what they excluded? Energy prices. Energy prices. Surprise, surprise. Now, this is despite promising both households and businesses that energy prices would come down by 18%. By 18% they promised. But what do we know? Electricity prices are going to go up by 56%, gas up by 44% in the next financial year. And this is what they have promised. Now, I can tell you, so much as the government benches might giggle when the Prime Minister, the Energy Minister or the Treasurer tries to dodge questions about their broken promise, I can tell you who is not laughing. I can tell you who is not laughing. The Australian people aren't laughing.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
The Australian pensioners,
Broken promises.
the Australian senior citizens who have had to go through winter and make genuine decisions. Do they eat or do they keep warm? What about the families who have had to make big decisions as families about the kids' schools they go to? This is the feedback that my office is getting because families are struggling. And this government knew it, because this government went to the Australian people and promised them they had the solutions, and they have absolutely no solutions. Now, there's a bigger problem here than just the broken promise, can I say, Deputy Speaker, but it's related to it, and it's this. The Labor Party has based its entire energy policy on an economic model done by Rupert's, an economic model that still to this day they stand by. Now, that $275 was a key input into all of their policy suites. We know from the budget that that modelling was flawed, and nobody in the Labor Party has been able to stand and defend that model. No one in the Labor Party can defend the economic model that says prices will come down by $275. And this is a serious issue because it is that same economic model, which is driving the Energy Minister's policies, the whole lot of them. So when we are seeing gas being removed from the capacity mechanism, that's because of that flawed economic model and the minister who still believes it's going to work. When we see an ongoing demonisation of gas, despite the fact that renewables need gas as a partner, that's on this minister and flawed economic modelling. And if anyone in the government benches can actually stand in this MPI today and explain how that economic model is not flawed, you're welcome to do so. Because if you cannot, you are telling the Australian people that the entire suite of policies around energy are flawed. Let us not forget, when the government came into this chamber and legislated its 43% reduction emissions, one of the questions we asked as an opposition was, has the department, has Treasury done economic modelling? No was the answer. They have done no modelling. Their entire policy is based on an economic model which is flawed. And so in the budget, what did we see then when it came to ensuring that renewables can be supported with dispatchable gas? Nothing. We saw money taken out for gas pipelines. So it's not only going to be removed from the capacity mechanism, but there's less money for the pipelines. There's no encouragement for developing gas. The gas basins, whether it be Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Northern Territory, they are being ignored by this government. But I'll tell you what they did include was $10 million. An extra $10 million was actually put in the budget. But you know what that went to? Legal activists, lawyers who are actually challenging gas projects. So this is what this government is doing. And for every business out there that is struggling, for the Australian Workers' Union, who has told the Australian people and the government 800,000 jobs are a threat, it is on this government This government, who has torn apart the policies that were working in this country, that kept the lights on, kept the prices down, kept emissions down, now they're going up, and it's based on an absolute dishonesty and a broken promise.
I give the call to